How do you build a champion? I mean, what really makes an elite athlete? Is it about spotting raw talent and just fast tracking it to the top? Or is it something way more complicated, something hidden, a journey of resilience and grit that you can't just see on a stat sheet? Today, we're diving right into the middle of English cricket, where you've got these multi-million dollar decisions and gut feel strategies clashing head on with what data science is telling us.
So here's our game plan. We're going to start with the big, messy debates that are happening in cricket right now. Then we'll hit pause on the headlines and dive deep into a really groundbreaking study that's like a secret blueprint for an elite player. Once we decode its most surprising secrets, we'll bring it all back and ask the big question. Is the system today actually building champions based on evidence, or is it just a huge, expensive gamble?
Okay, let's get right into it. To really get why a scientific blueprint is so needed, you first have to understand the, let's call it organized chaos, swirling around English cricket. It is a world of huge stakes, big money, and even bigger opinions. And you know what? Nothing sums it up better than this from former England bowler Steve Harmison. He calls the central contracts a sticky subject, and he is not kidding. These things are at the very heart of how England finds and rewards its top talent, and man, are they a source of constant debate. But it's not just the contracts, right? The debate is everywhere. You've got a whopping 30 central contracts handed out, which makes you wonder who's really getting the benefit. You've got Bazball, this super aggressive strategy that's exciting, sure, but is it actually adaptable? That question gets really loud when you look at their 50-over cricket, where they've lost 11 of their last 15 games. It all boils down to this one massive question hanging over everything. Are we picking the right players for the right reasons? So this brings us to the fundamental question we're trying to figure out. With all this noise and all this debate, how are top-tier international cricketers actually made? And is the current system, with its contracts and its strategies, even pointed in the right direction? To find an answer, we have to step away from the opinions and into the world of cold, hard data. And to find that answer, we turn to science. There's this incredible study that used machine learning to basically decode the developmental DNA of top players. Seriously, you can think of it like a secret blueprint, revealing the hidden patterns that actually lead to greatness. So what the researchers did was pretty clever. They basically built what you could call a digital super scout. They fed it all this detailed information, the life stories of two groups of players, the elite, international level guys, and the sub-elite guys. You know, the ones who had long pro careers but just never quite made it to that top level. And then the machine just went to work, hunting for the patterns, the tiny differences in their journeys that could predict who would become a true champion. And this is where it gets kind of crazy. They started with 93 different potential factors, everything from what month you were born in to the type of coaching you got. And the machine just sliced through all of that noise and isolated just 12. 12 true game changers. A handful of things that could predict, with over 92% accuracy, who would be great. This is literally finding the signal in the noise. So what are these 12 factors? Well, this is where the story gets fascinating, because a lot of them are completely counterintuitive. They really challenge the old school wisdom about how you spot talent. Okay, so this chart right here is the key to everything. Think of it like a developmental fingerprint. The red line, that's the path of the elite, international players. The blue line is the county pros who never quite got there. And just look at it. On almost every single one of these game-changing factors, the red line is way outside the blue one. It's not just one thing that separates them. It's a completely different journey. Let's break down a few of the most surprising ones. First up, a really weird twist on something called the relative age effect. We usually think kids born early in the school year have an advantage, right? They're bigger, they're more mature, and they do early on. But this study found that the truly elite players, the future superstars, were way more likely to be born later in the year. The theory is that being younger and smaller actually forced them to develop better technical skills and way more mental resilience just to keep up. And that paid off big time down the line. And this next one builds right on top of that idea. The future international stars weren't the child prodigies who got picked for the special academy at age 11. Nope, they tended to join the formal system way later, around age 14. The players who got in early, they were often the ones who leveled out. It suggests the path to the top isn't about being first in line. It's about developing at your own pace. So if they weren't in the fancy academies so early, what were they doing? Well, this chart gives us a huge clue. Before age 14, the future elite players were dedicating about half of their practice time to their specific skill, spin bowling. The sub-elite group? Almost none. This was passion-driven, not coach-driven. These were the kids who, as the study says, would just take a bag of balls by themselves and practice for hours.
This timeline really puts the whole journey into perspective. On the left, you see those key factors. Now, follow the path of an elite player. They join the academy later, around 14, but, and this is so crucial, they hit major performance milestones at each new level way faster than their peers. It just proves that the path to the top is not a simple straight line. It's about the timing and the impact of these huge developmental leaps. Okay, so we have this powerful, data-driven blueprint. Now let's bring it back to the here and now. How does the current reality of English cricket actually stack up against what the science found? Is the system today actually set up to create these kinds of champions? One of the biggest themes that came out of the study was adaptability. The elite players were just so much better at adjusting and performing when they stepped up to a new level, whether it was from junior to senior cricket or county to international. They could adapt. So the big question is, are today's strategies actually encouraging that trait across all the different formats of the game?
Well, this quote about England's recent 50-over performance. It suggests there's a problem. The criticism is that they're using a one-size-fits-all, hyper-aggressive approach and not adapting to the specific challenges of a longer game. And when the science tells you that adaptability is what separates the good from the great, a rigid, inflexible strategy starts to look like a massive red flag.
Okay, next up, resilience. The study was crystal clear that overcoming challenges early on, being the smaller kid, getting into the academy late, was a defining part of the elite players' journeys. So does a system that hands out 30 central contracts, some to players with very little top-level experience, actually reward that kind of hard-earned resilience? In fact, one of the elite players from the studies said it perfectly. You've got to be resilient, you've got to be tough, and you've got to be strong to keep bouncing back. The journey of these champions was literally defined by getting knocked down and getting back up again. It makes you wonder, are we at risk of making the path too smooth for some players? And by doing that, we stop them from developing the exact resilience they'll need to survive at the very top? So let's bring this all together. Let's do a final side-by-side look at the data-driven model versus the current reality of talent development in English cricket. This table really just lays the whole conflict bare. On one side, you have what the science found. You need early challenges to build resilience. You need adaptability. And the journey to the top is not a straight line. But on the other side, you've got these huge questions about the current system. Are we picking players too early based on how big they are, not how tough they are? Is our one-way-to-play strategy actually hurting us? Are the contracts rewarding the early bloomers instead of the players who develop late but have a higher ceiling? There is a pretty clear disconnect here between the evidence and what's actually being done. And that leaves us right here with this one massive, provocative thought. When we look at the actual blueprint for a champion, this messy, nonlinear journey, defined by resilience, adaptability, and pure, self-driven passion, we have to ask, is the future of English cricket being built on a foundation of this proven science, or is it all just a high-stakes gamble on gut instinct? The data gives us a map. The only question is whether anyone's going to follow it.